How are you doing?
Good.
Good. Hey, I wanted to touch base with you and just respond to your email and such. And so I read over your proposal, and I'm wondering. I get that you want to, see change made, but I'm just going to be fully transparent with you. Because I'm sure you know about the Seth Campbell matter, and so I was leading that, getting Seth out of our ecosystem. But the problem I'm having with this situation is, a lot of folks have looked into it, and obviously, a mutual affair happened several years ago. There apparently was some fallout with some agents. I mean, I'm only aware of Spring Benson and some other affiliated agents leaving. But, to really be able to dig in, I need some individuals that will actually suggest that, there's bullying or sexual harassment type behavior going on.
Chad, did you see the one where the team leader came and got after Marcus because his own agents were allowed to slap her ass? And she left and went back saying, I guess Utah is exactly like the rumors say. If you aren't willing to put out and get groped by them, then you can't work there?
People were talked to, and then, there's affidavits that are saying some of this is a little bit different than what you're saying happened. I'm only saying, if it is such a toxic environment, do you have somebody now that can say that?
We had multiple. I had Lee Stern, who knows Gary Keller personally, go and interview the people that I collected so that I wasn't even involved in it.
I talked to Lee, and she point blank told me she was not aware of a toxic environment in the market centers. I talked to Lee.
Lee Stern said that because her letter alone says how disappointed she was for what she found.
I get that. I understand that. This all happened way before I started.
Well, and Chad, to let you know,
suggesting that I passed along the link is not accurate because I was not even with the company.
I didn't say you passed on the link. I said Gary did because Gary was the one who had access to it. But
no, in your video that you just sent me, within the first few minutes,
it says the private link that I sent to Gary got sent through the hierarchy down to the abuser. When I talked to you, that had already happened.
No, I know. That's why I'm telling you. Alicia, I want to help you, okay? I understand that you want to make a change and see what's right done. I understand that. I need you, though, is there somebody that I can talk to that can talk to an abusive environment at the market centers now or recently, not in connection with a mutual consensual affair that happened that created some fallout. I get that. I'm talking about something that's been recent or happening now where agents or whoever will come forward and say, there's inappropriate conduct going on, there's abusive conduct, those types of actions now, not 4 or 5 years ago.
Chad, what I'm saying is this was just the door that opened. I found the holes within KW internationally. That's what I talked to you about originally. The Green Brothers were just the door that opened for me to see the holes of everything within KW. That's the bigger problem. I'm not.
So what do you mean by that exactly?
You have no anywhere for anyone to go to report anything. You have just how same thing I've been treated. Nobody gets back to you with any information. I've had people who submitted things to HR before and gets no response. That's the problem. There is no recourse. There is no anything other than now evidence of it getting back to the abuser when someone does come forward. That's all the evidence we have. That is the problem I talked to you about when you were going to go.
No. And I've been following up with, I'm not in charge of the, and so since last August, I talked to you about a red flags reporting program that we're implementing. So apparently, and that is in the works. However,
you didn't tell me of that, anything about that. You told me that you would get back to me after Mega Camp, and this is the first time I'm talking to you.
No, I know. I'm saying, I said we were looking at doing that because that's something that's been in the works. So apparently the company that we were going to do that with required a little more due diligence. We didn't know that it was going to be the right company. And so now I think we've made a decision. So that program is a red flags reporting program for the field. And I basically followed up with the folks, since I spoke to you on a monthly basis to see where we are on that.
And what does that do?
Well, what that's going to do is it's going to basically allow for folks in the field a process where they can do anonymous complaints that, depending on who it involves, get filtered, whether it's to the regional folks, if it doesn't involve regions. If it does involve somebody in that chain, then it will go directly, I think, to Leslie, the head of HR will be handling that. But it's a full-blown red flags reporting program that will allow for these types of things to be dealt with anonymously. And I can, like I said, I've tried to follow. As soon as in August, we talked about this. I talked about this with Leslie. We had some back and forth on the company. I followed up. There was some, like I said, due diligence issues with the company. We've decided, I think, to go with that company now. And so I think it's being implemented. And I can follow up and see exactly where that's at. But I can also provide you emails while I'm following up to see what the status is this program is on a monthly basis.
And how are you following up? If it is anonymous, how does anybody know afterwards that anything is actually being done? Because honestly, over the 2 years of me dealing with this, that has been my biggest issue.
Well, no, when I say it's anonymous, it's going to be anonymous to if there's somebody in the chain of command, so there's no, in fact, retaliation type conduct that would occur. That's what I say anonymous. So if it was somebody in the regional chain that, maybe it's a TL or an agent even has an issue with the way the region handled something, or the RD or whoever it may be, then it's basically going to skip that level. And, just like you're saying, and I totally agree with you, if there's a complaint process, that person should not be involved in the decision-making or the review or investigation of the complaint. I totally get that. That's why we're implementing these programs. I can get more information on it and get back to you. Like I said, Leslie's team's handling that. I don't know when exactly it's going to be rolled out, but I mean, part of our discussion was the impetus of launching that program.
Sorry, I'm trying to pull up the letter that Lee wrote because it has down on there. Did you talk to the team leader that got her ass slapped? And Marcus said that was okay? Or that it's the reputation of KW in Utah with them because of that?
I mean, I don't know what the reputation of KW is in Utah. I'll be honest with you. I don't know.
Well, and I wasn't aware. I knew of it within agents that had left and reached out to me, mainly guys, actually, because of the way women were being treated, that left and said how disgusting it was and this and that. But this was an actual team leader.
Based on the folks that I spoke with, the only people that I know that left, in connection with the affair and all that went on there.
Oh, I'm not talking about the affair. They've been pushing people out that have called them out on anything that is unethical. Those agents get pushed out. They look like they're just leaving, but they get pushed out. The only reason you know more with Amanda is because I know Amanda and can dig into it.
Well, I mean, Can you tell me these individuals?
I was
Their names?
pulling up. Well, but see, that's what I'm saying. This is 2 years later. This information was given at the very beginning. But let's see. There was, trying to look for the team leader's name because she came. Because, yeah, the affair is what got me in here, but then watching the web that it created afterwards and then hitting international and seeing all of the holes with no support, that's where I'm at. The affair means nothing to me anymore other than that was what started my digging.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
Let's see. Well, and then there was Mallory. She's the one who was up at one of his offices. Marcus pushed her out of the team leader position, hired a different person who had no experience, pulled it all out of the ALC, made sure that it was known that ALC rules did not include that they had to go through the process. And even though it was promised to her, ended up he was, screwing her. So of course that's why Mallory got pushed out. She ended up getting an office outside of KW, trying to stay with KW as long as possible. More agents ended up going and staying with her at her office. And that's, again, that's a common theme. It's the same thing I had to fix in the Orem office, where he was not allowed to hire anybody anymore. He was not allowed to be in charge of any of that because he was screwing the ones he did. And that's the stuff, I don't know if you're aware of that. That's what I had to deal with 8 years ago that Gary was not aware of. I fixed this problem 8 years ago with somebody in the Orem office who is a best friend of mine, but he had an option A, option B. One was prison, and the other one was going through all the steps that I put in place and being held accountable. And now he's one of the best offices in the state, but also he knows Gary personally, but he had to go through anger management therapy. He pretty much had was on probation and had, what's it called? Almost like when you're in AA and you have a sponsor. So he had a sponsor, he had all that. He wasn't allowed to hire any of the assistants anymore because he was caught screwing them. But that one, he laid hands on the girl. And I ended up helping her, but to keep him out of prison, he had to choose to be able to, rehabilitate himself and not be over in leadership role until then.
What's Mallory's last name?
I'm pulling it up right now. Mallory Call. She was an ALC member. I think I sent this to you in the email where Lee wrote out everybody that she interviewed and where we stopped. And then I went further into the holes within KW International. Do you have that letter? Because that.
I got an email. I think it was from.
Yeah, I think I added it to the email instead of it being an attachment when I forwarded it to you. But that she went through and documented past. She took whatever I had and then went and did her own to make sure and write it up. And then also has down, when she reached out for help to Scott Agnew or reached out for help over here or here and what she got. But I'm trying to find the team leader, that one, it resonated with everything I had been hearing through male agents that had left KW. And when I realized she came from Alaska and had the same reputation rumor because of the Green brothers. Let's see. And then there was Jordy Clark, who approached Marcus numerous times. I guess one of my biggest questions is, why does Gary want to keep anybody? I don't care if they are trying to be on their best behavior right now. Why would he want to keep or put them in a higher place of power within KW, knowing what they stand for within the community and the reputation they're causing KW to have?
I mean, my guess is when folks looked at this back in the day and they didn't find causal, need to make a change, that basically the book was closed on it, right? So
when was that? Because I would have been.
I'm just saying, people have said that people looked into this, like, and I know you mentioned Scott Agnew, but he said he did an investigation and met with folks as well and didn't find really any wrongdoing.
When you guys ask them that, do you ask what the investigation is and who they talk to? Because they're talking to Matt or Marcus. That's not an investigation. That's my problem. That's how I got a cease and assist, which just makes me louder. It doesn't make me stop.
Yeah, no, I get that.
And then why would KW support Matt giving me a cease and assist, which is what you guys did?
Well, I mean, again, I don't know if I was around, I wasn't aware of it,
And I get that. I get that you got thrown into this, but there's gotta be some kind of accountability for KW. I don't care if you're just getting into the mix. The shitstorm already was going.
Yeah, no, I hear that. That's what I'm saying, though. If people think that that's been closed and that's been done and nothing's been done, do you have something or somebody that I can talk to about the environment now, a recent incident? Doesn't have to be like going on right now, but at least fairly recent, somebody that I can talk to where they can clearly tell me this type of conduct went on, this is what happened to me.
Well, but see, that's what I'm saying is that's just their culture. It's in everything they say and do, whether it is a winking at a chick or making out, like Matt getting caught kissing one of the girls or Marcus getting caught. It is in their DNA and what they see is okay. And then I get these people to come forward, nothing happens, and Matt gets a raise. Do you really think they want to reach out and say anything else? Thinking KW is going to protect them? Honestly, that's my problem. They watched me come to help them, then watched Matt get a raise and Marcus have no punishment happen. When something like this happens, how are you going to be implementing in the future? The office knows that you backed them and something did happen and accountability did take place. Nothing like that happened, and you lost agents over that. Well, and you're continually, because it's who they are and what they stand for. That's the problem. Sorry, you're cutting out. I can't hear you.
From the rest of our family.
Sorry, what was that?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, sorry. My wife and I actually just tested positive for COVID yesterday, so I'm holed up in a guest room, and my wife's in our bedroom, and we're just trying to.
That stinks.
Trying to make it work. So, no, I understand that. Okay, that's what you're saying about the culture, but you realize, I mean, we kind of need, in order to take action, somebody's going to need some evidence that it just can't be, this happened 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 4 years ago.
It happened when I started this process with KW for them to try and ignore me and silence me.
I know, but I'm saying folks are going to say it was looked at.
It wasn't looked at, though. That's the problem. Lee Stern wasn't even contacted until after Matt got his raise, and I raised hell again. That's what I'm saying. Nobody's talked to Amanda. Nobody has talked to, and I even gave Marcus King the information to reach out to them. So you can say it's been taken care of. They talked to Matt and Marcus. They did not talk to anybody past that.
I understand that. I understand that's how you feel. I'm just saying, can you, setting that aside, okay, if this is really the environment, and it would seem to me that if it's so rampant and ongoing that
agents try to avoid them like the plague. Yeah, agents try and avoid them like the plague.
Let me tell you, when there's been egregious conduct, we haven't had any issues with agents, speaking their mind when we're doing these investigations and coming forward.
They didn't have any issues. They got interviewed by me and by Lee to see nothing happen and Matt get a raise. That's what I'm saying. So if you want me to go stir the pot some more and get more evidence, if that's what you're asking me to do, that's not helping you guys' situation at all, because I stopped.
I'm just saying, I don't have any recent, if this is ongoing and it's a toxic culture in these market centers as a result of Marcus
and Matt,
then there should be folks that will say that.
Yes, and they're in the thing that Lee interviewed them. The only reason it's 2 years is because of you guys. That's my problem.
I get that, but is there not anybody that will say something that's not 2 to 3 years old?
It wasn't. It was current when we got it.
No, I get that. I get that current when you got it, but if he's in the same position and the environment's toxic, there should be agents that have left because of that recently.
Yes, and I'm saying if you want me to go collect those, I will, but it's not going to be for your case. It will be for mine. Does that make sense? I did 2 years worth of work and gathering, and now funneling back to you again to follow up, even though you were supposed to get back to me after Mega Camp with an update. And if you want me to go get more people and more evidence, that I can do. I stopped for a reason, because it was getting so big and disappointing. I can find more people. That is not the problem.
I'm just saying, for us to have to take action.
What does it take for Gary? What would it take for Gary to actually stand up for his ethics and values and put his actual, money where his mouth is? Because these aren't people he would have hired in the first place if he would have done research to see and know what their past history was and their ethics and values in regular world. He wouldn't have hired them. So I don't understand why he's having an issue now trying to see past the friendship.
You're mainly talking about Marcus, right?
No, I'm talking about both, because Matt, him enabling it is even worse than the one who's just screwing everybody and causing issues. The one who's doing a blind eye and ignoring when people are going to him with problems and allowing mega agents to get pushed out because of his brother, that is definitely not somebody who should be in leadership and over anybody. That's my problem, is both of them. I don't care if it's one or the other. One person who is enabling an abuser is just as bad as the abuser. That's where Gary's at right now, because Gary is enabling them to stay and also have the impression on everyone who's watched it and knows that I turned it in, that Gary approves. That's what they're seeing.
Okay, well, can you do this for me? Get me a couple people that I can speak with directly, just based on the environment and their dealings with Marcus.
Do you want me to call Amanda? Because I can put her on three-way right now and she can tell you the up close and ugly.
I understand, Amanda. I'm saying somebody other than the folks that you have told me about. If there's so many that are leaving and the environment's so toxic, there should be others, I'm saying.
I'm telling you, if I go dig and find more, it's not going to be for your case, it'll be for mine. That is why you have 72 out. That is the window I gave you, was because nothing had been happened, and all that's happened is the loop around that you guys try and put me through every single time to try and get you more information and more evidence. And that's where Mark King left off and never contacted any of the people I tried to help him with.
No, he contacted some of them. He did.
And I don't believe that Lee Stern said anything about it being a great work environment, that she talked to people and that's what they said.
No, Lee said she has no clue about the environment now at the market centers.
Well, no.
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
but why does that matter? Why does that matter? When you get in trouble as a teenager, you're on your best behavior when you know people are watching you, but does that change what you're doing in secret? Just means you're better at hiding it.
But again, if folks looked at it in the past, I know you're saying that it wasn't looked at properly, but again, this is before my time. People have said that it was looked at and was handled that are outside of the Green family. So
you mean the ones who got the abusers the video in the first place?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm just saying.
Chad, you have to agree with me. Like, I don't care who talked to it or what. The abuser got information that they shouldn't have gotten. It was not treated correctly. Otherwise, a cease and desist would have never made it to the whistleblower trying to help KW. All of those things are evidence that it wasn't handled correctly.
Well, now that's precisely why we're putting in the field red flags reporting program. That's precisely why. I totally agree with you and get that. And so that's why that program's being implemented.
I get that. But for 2 years, I have been trying to not go the direction that I was going. And in that time, none of the people got any kind of recourse, and Matt got a raise. I got no information unless I called, and Matt got a raise. So please tell me where it looks like KW is supporting the change or supporting the abuser.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear with our action with Seth Campbell, a mega agent, one of the top agents in the system, just got booted.
And I bet you it was probably for less lists of people willing to stand up against them that we started with. That was one person. You had team leaders that got their ass grabbed. You had agents. You have Lee Stern who interviewed them all. You had other mega agents that were on. Those were just the ones that we talked to, not even the ones that I heard about or anything else, because the web started getting so big. And like I said, the brothers are the least of my problems now. It is the bigger problem of, I know how I've been treated for these 2 years, and I was just trying to help KW fix a problem in the beginning and work with you. I can't imagine what anyone else has had to deal with. And that is the pain that's already been caused. I see what you're trying to do going forward. But like I said in my video, I guarantee you there are women that were put in horrible positions with nowhere to go. And I bet you there's probably some rapes in there. Because if this is being allowed here, internationally, you have some narcissists that are using their power over women on a massive scale. That's my problem.
I'm not going to deny that doesn't happen. When you talk about a large ecosystem as KW, I mean, that's inevitable. Unfortunately, it is. And I mean, I totally understand, and I appreciate actually you bringing this up last summer, because that is the impetus of putting in the red flags reporting. It was clear to me that, you know, if there were these complaints and people at certain levels were the ones that were supposed to be investigating or reaching conclusions on the complaints, that's not the correct process. So in event, you are the impetus of putting this program in place.
Well, that doesn't fix my problem here, but I'm glad to see that something's happening, because I know that there's a lot of women out there that have left KW silent, reached out to HR with no response, or are still mentally not okay because of what happened. That's my problem.
I mean, I can't speak for when I started, but I'm pretty sure that if somebody reached out to HR, that Leslie would take those very seriously. I mean,
maybe now. Amanda and people did reach out. That's in our thing. They did reach out with no response at all from HR. Yes.
Or are you talking about region?
No, they have the submit a complaint on your KWRI, I think is where it is.
Oh, at KW.com.
Where you submit a complaint to HR. Numerous people sent in complaints with no response whatsoever. That's what I'm saying is I started finding, when I was hearing those pieces, it was way past the Green brothers. And I was going in to find the holes and submitting and not getting responses, to see that Lee had the same thing. It didn't matter where she took it. And then for me to get the same treatment, that's me and Lee. We're like freaking soldiers and warriors. That is not someone who has just been raped or abused or neglect. Like, they aren't going to do that, Chad. And that's what I am saying. This 72-hour window, this was for past. Of course, I hope it is going to be better and systems implemented in the future. But how I've been treated and everyone else has been treated, and allowing them to stay and showing the culture that it's allowed because he gets a raise and nothing was done, that is where I am irate. Irate. The only reason that I've had any responses is by me reaching back out. And that is never how it should be. So the only thing that I was willing to discuss on what I submitted was the offices, that chunk, but they cannot stay in the positions that they are in, period. I don't care if they're on their best behavior now. I don't care. And if you want me to go dig, it's not gonna be pretty, because I guarantee you I will find it, but I'll send it to you, but it's not gonna be used for your benefit. It'll pass the 72-hour window and I will use it for mine. Because they are not staying.
I understand that. It just kind of helps me. I mean, look, that kind of information would help me if there's something recent.
I know, but isn't that's just the same thing as like me having to do the class action and me being guided to do this instead?
I mean, you at least gotta, I can't just, do you want me just to call somebody randomly out of the market centers?
No, what I'm saying is, Chad, that's like me. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. That is like me going and saying anything new that has nothing to do with the problem at hand. The problem that I reported 2 years ago, and the problem that has still stayed and got promoted, and me being treated the way I was and everyone else involved, and Matt gets a raise, that's my problem. Has nothing to do with me going and finding more people. That's just going to prove the same point as if I do a class action. It's just showing you the holes we already know were there. That's the only reason why I'm talking to you and having option A. is because I can see exactly why I got guided to do this, because the class action just shows you the holes we already know were there. So if you're wanting me to go find current stuff, all that's doing again is showing you the same shit that I showed you before, but giving you a, you know, a clean slate or whatever, and hoping the past. And
tells me because I was not involved in the original piece at that time frame. That's all I'm saying. And so then I talked to folks, and they said it was handled. Easter gave me, like I said, she reiterated basically what people told her. And then she basically said, I have no clue about the toxicity of the environment in the market centers. Mark talked to folks. So, I mean, we did, but we're basically rehashing something that was already done.
But it wasn't, or they wouldn't have come to me and had me start going back full circle. Because they don't believe KW is supporting them. They believe KW is supporting the abuser, and exactly why I was doing a class action. Because that is the evidence that KW is proving. That is the only evidence we have.
I mean, if we've got real evidence that I've seen and talked to the folks, I've got no issues telling Mark, Jerry, whoever it is, that we got to get rid of this person.
Where is, let's see. Sorry, I'm looking through the letter because I was going to grab you. That team leader that came in, she was only here for a few days and got groped. And when you say you asked them if they dealt with it, are you looking at their notes to see what actually was done? Because that's my problem, is nothing was done. Carolyn Knight, that was the investor who caught Matt making out with someone. Jordy. Oh, let's see. Team leader from Alaska. Okay, I think this one was it. She met with Matt Green, had a good interview, followed him with a dinner. His interview, she mentioned that Marcus had heard the culture was not good.
Who is that?
That's the team leader that got her ass grabbed in front of Marcus, and Marcus laughed, and instead she punched the agent and left. But she was the one who was warned about the culture not being good. And then within the first 24 to 48 hours, and she even told Matt as well. The name of the team leader candidate from Alaska. I can get her name.
Is that the Mallory, or is that?
No, Mallory was an agent on the ALC in one of Marcus's offices. And she'd be willing to talk to you as well. But what I'm saying is these are all people that have already seen that KW wasn't willing to support any change or help. Which also shows everyone else coming forward is just going to jeopardize their job, the workplace getting worse, and KW not supporting any change. Because that's the only evidence we have. I can get her name, and I think Lee actually has her name in our notes. Oh, Vanessa Noble. Lee called the candidate, and I have her number if you want to talk to her. She met prior to coming to Layton MC to interview for the job as TL. She was cautioned by her mentor in the Northwest region that the culture in Utah was not good. She took that to mean she could make a difference in Utah if she was to become team leader. She met with the OP, Matt Green, had a good interview with him, followed by a dinner with Matt and his ALC. I felt these gatherings had gone well. The next morning, she had an interview with Marcus Green. She mentioned to Marcus she had heard the KW culture in Utah was not good. He immediately clammed up, and there was a definite change in him when I mentioned that. And let's see. Came to the hotel, proceeded. So that was the team leader, but I think that's the same team leader that had her ass grabbed. She went to.
Go back and look.
Yeah, because there was one that an agent, because that's the culture that Marcus allows, the agent grabbed her ass in front of Marcus, and she looked at Marcus and said, "Are you really going to allow someone to do that to me in your office?" And he laughed and didn't say anything. She punched the agent and went straight to Matt, and then pretty much got on a plane the next day. I guess I'm not sure how much evidence Gary really wants. Does he want someone to have been raped and hurt, or is he just okay with losing amazing people to keep shady fuckers? Like, that's the part where I'm totally clueless at his intentions, because how many people need to say it's not okay for it to be a problem?
Yeah, I need to go back and look. Vanessa Nobles is a name that happened was also in our Seth Campbell investigation.
Wouldn't doubt it. They always seem to like web together. That's how my world works, at least.
So I'm not entirely sure the credibility there.
Okay. But my timeline's not changing. So there's still only 28 hours or whatever left. So whatever Gary decides to do, that's fine, but I'm not stopping. So unless the only piece, like I said, that I was willing to negotiate and give time and whatever on was the office's chunk, but the other of him funneling in to help heal the women that he was willing to ignore and enable abusers, that I am not.
No, I totally understand. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to do what you feel is best. I get that.
So if he wants a class action coming at him, as long as right along with the LDS church that is going, that's on him. But I don't see how much he needs to see that people do not respect the leadership he has chose at all, and what he needs to do to get it out. Because that reflects on him. So I don't know what kind of evidence he needs, but I guarantee you, no matter what, if people don't respect the leaders he has in place and they see him enabling it, Gary is losing his reputation and respect everywhere, not just here.
I mean, that's a pretty broad brush, I think, to state.
Not really. When I was treated the way I've been treated, KW supporting a cease and assist, me submitting to HR and other people submitting to HR with no responses, me never getting updates and everybody else being ignored. I don't know where that's a broad statement. That's evidence. That's not a broad statement. That's not a guesstimate. That is exactly how I've been treated, and everyone else in what I collected and where I stopped, because it was gonna get bigger and I knew it would. And I wanted to go to you guys first to try and help me fix a problem. And then I got the shitty treatment, just like everyone else had said before. And I help all of your KW offices, just like